Okay, so listen, I was wondering how we were going to segue back into the story when we left. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Lovecraft Country. This is episode 3, season 1. And when we left last week, I felt like I had just finished a 2-hour movie. That's what it felt like. Like, literally, if this was a movie, that's where part 1 of the movie would have ended. And that was it. It was pretty much the end of the story. Done deal. It was over. With horror movies, there could have been a segue. They could have just pulled anything and started a part 2. So it pretty much, for me, I think the writer side of me, I'm like, they can go anywhere at this point to open up for whatever's next. And it basically did. It kind of just, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I think they did an okay job with opening this back up, because it basically, they just kind of went on, and some time has actually passed. We're in 1955. Time has passed. Not a whole lot of time, just a little time, a month or so. There's been a funeral for Uncle George, and basically people are trying to get their lives back as normal as possible. Now, what we found out is that Tick, Letty, and Montrose aren't really saying anything about what actually went on for real. They're basically leaving it at, there was this really prejudiced place that you went to. There's a sheriff there that's known for killing black folks for no reason, pretty much, and they're just kind of going with he shot him. And basically it's like this unsaid thing between the black folks that we done did him, and that's it. Because there's like a lot of missing people and stuff, and the sheriff and stuff was gone. So they just kind of just left it alone. Ain't nobody looking for them. And, it's just a left alone thing. But we start right in, and I noticed in this episode they were doing like day 1, day 2. This whole episode literally was the stretch of 10 days. Okay? So day 1, we actually see them. Letty has bought a house. She came into some money, said that she hit the lottery. Basically, she hit a lottery, and she came into this money, and she bought this big old house. Big old creepy looking house. And at first, her sister was not on board. This house has like 13 rooms, 3 floors, and a full basement. Okay? So she was talking about, we just turned it into a boarding house. It'll be a safe haven for black folks. It's over in the white side of town, okay? So it's over on the white side. It's over on the south side of Chicago. And I was wondering how long it was going to be before they figured out that they weren't really wanted there. But whatever. So the sister at first was like, she wasn't feeling it. She's a little skeptical. Then she's like, okay, cool, no problem. And there's this elevator. And they shows that there's an elevator in the house. And Letty's like looking like, wait, what's wrong with the elevator? Why is it not working? And she's looking for the elevator. The elevator ain't where it's supposed to be. Like, so she's like looking in the hole, and then all of a sudden it like shoots up, and she's like, I said, oh, here we go. So right away I said, haunted house. Houses with elevators, dig giveaway, haunted house. Okay. I said, something ain't right. But, she's like, I'll just get it fixed. And I was like, Again, I tell you about this difference between black folks and white folks. No, no, sorry. And I have a friend that actually has a house that has an elevator in it, and I was like, okay, it's a new house though. The house is new, and they have this elevator in their house, and it just trips me out. Like, you all have an elevator in your house. Like, I just, no, thank you, no thanks. That's just you know, that's just. Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, but anyway, and theirs ain't creepy. But you know, an old creepy elevator. You know the old creepy ones with the slide and the little gates. Mm-mm. Anyway, so that was that. That was the first thing I said. Would have been gone out the door. But anyhow, let's go over to Uncle George's house. His wife, naturally, she's grieving. So I'm giving her a pass on her grieving. But I was like, something's going on when I'm looking at her and how she's moving about. Then she was sitting there and she had the Dracula. I think it was Bram Stoker's Dracula book. And she was just literally sitting there looking in the mirror, kind of dazed, and just ripping the pages out. But she went to a specific section of the book. Did you all notice that? She went to a section of the book and was just sitting there ripping the pages out. I thought that was very strange, but I was like, okay, whatever. And I just seen that she was very irritated. And then we start seeing around the house. Tick is back at the house. And Dee, the daughter, they're vabbing. But Tick has taken on this kind of leadership role at their house. Like, just doing stuff. He's taking on this leadership role. And I know he was in the military and that, so he has a certain kind of way about stuff. And he just looked not welcome, like he was on their nerves. It was time for him to go. That's the feeling I got. And I was right. But yeah, he had worn out his welcome, and he actually spoke those words later on. That he had worn out his welcome when he went to see Montrose. He went over to see his dad. Now, Montrose is actually in some type of a funk. Of course, he done lost his brother. You know, of course, he's dealing with all the stuff that he saw. And remember, he was captured and all of this. So he had all this going on. He'd been getting totally drunk. Okay, so he's all drunked up. Ted came over and said, Pops, you know I need to stay with you. Could I stay with you for a little bit because I've worn out my welcome over there, you know, whatever. And it just, everything's very tense. And this is where we found out that they basically didn't tell the whole story. And they're not going to tell the story and all of this. But things seem a little more heavy for Montrose to me. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there at you all. Do you think that, remember they had the little argument? It was like a quick, slight argument about him telling him that he was really his father and all of this. And he talked about, like, you know, like the feelings were real, you know, it was a whole thing. Do you think that, do you all think that George actually just bled out? Montrose is a strange character. He's very angry. He's very angry. And something just didn't seem right. The way in which he was grieving was real heavy. And he doesn't seem like that heavy of a person. Like, he's mean. Like, he has a mean spirit. So I get very one and done from him. And to see him literally, like, laying in grief doesn't seem right to me. It seems like there's something more on you. I don't know. Something, I don't know. I don't know if George actually just bled out without any help from Montrose. Because I think Montrose was very adamant about keeping this secret, and George was at a point of telling the secret. So I'm not so sure that George just bled out without any help from Montrose. And Montrose may be grieving because there might be some guilt behind it. I'm just going to throw that out there. Y'all hit the comments and tell me what y'all think about that. But for right now, until they go into it, I'm going to leave it alone. But y'all tell me what y'all think. Anyway, moving on. So, it was what it was. So, this is all day one. Okay? So, we move on into day two. Day two, we see Tech drops by on Letty, basically letting her know that he's getting ready to go, that he's about to leave. There is still unfinished business between the two of them. You know, they done took a liking to each other, but they ain't really saying nothing. Letty is kind of letting it be known to Tech that she was kind of feeling him, but he's kind of like pushing her away. Like he's not really wanting to, trying to acknowledge, he's kind of not wanting to acknowledge it. And that's another thing. I think Tick is afraid of getting close to the female counterpart because I think something happened in Korea with a woman that he was in love with. I think he may have snapped. Remember when we saw the whole mind game thing? I think maybe he snapped and killed the woman, or just the fact that, or maybe she was a double agent, or something happened when we seen all of that. So I don't know, maybe it's something that he has where he don't really want to get close to a female, or just anybody that much to have to, if something pop off, he don't want to have to deal with that or something. But it's some reason that he seems to be pulling away from Letty. But anyway, right in the midst of all of that, you hear this, like this horn, like a horn, and what you end up seeing is the white folks that showed up, child. The white folks that showed up, and it's a group of guys, and they basically are out there, and like the cars are lined up, and they got a brick, like electric, with electrical tape taped to the horn to create like this loud noise, you know, and basically letting them know that they ain't want it. Tick says at that moment, maybe I will stick around for a couple of days. I said, that's it, because remember, Tick told Letty, I'll never abandon you. So he got to keep his promise. So that was that. So then we go on to day 5. So we just skipped 3 and 4. We had day 5. I take it the white boys have been doing their thing, and they keep coming and making noise and just kind of just doing what they do. On day 5, Letty is laying in the bed, and it's full daylight, like it's like early morning, full daylight, and you see somebody's hand pulling the covers down off of her, and I was like, I said, oh, so Tick that came around, now he want a little taste or something. And then you see on the side of the bed, you see like, because they were pulling the covers from the bottom. Then on the side of the bed, you see this head peeking up, and Letty's laying there asleep. Baby, when I tell you the face that was up on that side of the bed, this woman, honey, it was this lady, she was fucked up, honey. I said, ugh, her mouth was missing. Like the bottom of her mouth was tore up. Well, it was gone. She was a mess. But you could tell she was like something not real. She was something, I wouldn't even say supernatural. It had a very decayed look to it. So I said, okay, so here we go. And then Letty wakes up and she's gone. Because she like pulled the covers, and Letty wakes up and she's gone. Wanted to get her attention. And then you're hearing all this noise. There's the beeping of the guys. That's going on. You know, they're doing that. And then there's all this rattling. She ends up going down into the basement. It's the water heater is like making all this noise and this steam and all of this, and she got it to shut back and quiet down because it was like it was getting ready to blow. So she quieted it down, and she loosened the pressure and all that. So I'm like, wow, she knows what she doing. But anyway, she goes down there. Now ain't nobody else got up. Just Letty. Letty went and did it, and the house is full. She didn't already completely stock the house with folks and everything. She goes down there and she started hearing voices and stuff. And there was a whole bunch of stuff like going on. Like it was like real creepy, the whole ghost story type of thing. And she was hearing these voices. So she ends up getting Tick. So her and Tick go down. Tick's just kind of giving her very much of, with everything. This is the first time they spoke about what happened, with everything that happened, you might just be on edge. Everything's fine. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. And under the boards of the floor, something just wasn't going on, right? So, you know that Letty actually does do photography. You know that. And a lot of the people who are boarders there are like artists, like starving artists and stuff. So this is where she got like all these boarding folk. So everybody's there. She got the place fully stocked. They kind of just left alone what happened down there. It was like, just whatever. There was a whole nother little situation between her and Tick where she had touched his hand and he moved his hand like he's still shying away from her. I'm like, Tick, ridiculous. So that was that. Now we're going to move on. A couple more days. Day 8. Day 8, they're having this big party. So they're like celebrating, this is, they just having the party. Everybody's all dressed, everybody having a good time, this, that, and everything like that. Uncle George is over, Lord. Uncle George's daughter and wife are over at the party. D, okay? D is a little girl. We know there's something with D. There's something with D. We know there's something with D. D is George's child, okay? Just like Tick is George's child. And we know that Tick has some type of a power inside of him. D has a lot of some type of an energy that is attached to her too, if you ask me. There's something going on with D. All these things link back to George some type of way. And because we know George had a real insight on different things. And George and Tick's mother used to have conversations that were a little on the supernatural side, okay? Anyway, there's kids, like a group of kids that were there. So it's like they're like young adults. They're up there, like preteen. They were playing with a Ouija board. I said, no. But they're up there playing with this Ouija board. And then the Ouija board ends out spelling George is dead. And D kind of blamed it on one of the other kids that were there. He's like, I didn't do it. It moved by itself. At the same time, George's wife was actually walking around in the house, and there was a room that basically called her in. And in that room, there was this little figure, little statue thing that looked like the solar system and different things, but it was like not really our solar system. It looked like our solar system with a little something extra added. I said, see, y'all got Ouija boards, odd solar systems, and things of that nature. Now, all of this stuff will tie in. It will tie in. Yeah, it will at some point, I'm sure. So, we see all that with the little globes and stuff. While all this is going on, Letty's downstairs dancing. Letty done got good and high up. She down there dancing and carrying on. Tick comes and Tick's watching her dance and do. And this guy rolls up and says, me and Letty used to talk back in the day. But he said it in a way of like, yeah, I want to get back with her. He made it seem as though he had done banged her out before and that he was wanting to get back with her now that she's back in town. And he was trying to ask Tick, you know, are you and her messing around? And Tick was like, he said, if she's your woman, you need to let her know. And look, and she was like real flirty with the guys. So then we see Letty that went to the bathroom. She's in the bathroom just cooling herself off. And then there's this whole little thing going on in the mirror. And I'm like, is this another little ghost thing going on with her? Because there was weird shit going on in the house. Well, what ended up happening, it was Tick at the door. Honey. Tick comes in the bathroom. And right then, baby, he went ahead and stopped all his pulling away from her. And I was like, well, wait a minute, honey. Y'all acting up at this party. He came in there, baby, and banged her out right there in the bathroom. Tore her down. Lit her up right up on the sink, honey. And she was bleeding a little bit. And that's she had put her hand down and she was like, oh my gosh. She said, I knew that I had started a little bit. I'm sorry. And he was like, no, that's okay. You know, that's all right. Ain't no thing. And leaves out. Which she was lying again, which what Letty does. She's lying. And she sat there and she was just like, she was so embarrassed. And she's like, he went on down, you know, he went on about his way because she told him to go. So she get herself together and he left out. And you could see she was like so embarrassed. But what had actually happened, and it came up later on in the episode, but what actually happened is Letty lied about her coming on her period. She wasn't coming on her period. He had busted her cherry is what had happened. She had never had sex before. That was her first time. And baby, he went and tore her up over there on that sink, honey, and he that rattled her loose, honey, and that was all that it was. It wasn't a thing. It's Miss Letty, girl, happens to the best of them, honey. It's okay. So, nothing to be embarrassed about, girl. If it was your first time and he didn't make you bleed, girl, that's when you would have to be questioning him, honey. As to maybe Tick ain't worth the time, honey. But anyway, moving on. Don't judge me. Moving on. So once all of this happened, then we look, and in the midst of the party, everything going good. Somebody done slid out there. See, because Tick was keeping watch, making sure everything was good when he was away from the watch. And the white boys then did their thing. Somebody done burned a cross. There was a cross burning on the lawn, honey. Just that quick. So, Letty snaps out. Baby Letty goes and grabs a bat. Goes out there and bangs all the cars until she finds the one with the brick on it. She banged all the windows, baby. Let her have it. And then I was like, oh, she's going to jail. So you actually see George's wife snatching D, and they're like, baby, we ain't got time for this over here with the on the south side with you and these white folks. We are out of here, baby. And they were gone. They flew on back to their side of town. Naturally, the cops came, grabbed Letty up. Letty has this whole little thing back there with this cop. And the cop said to her, who told you to buy the Winthrop house? Who told you to buy that house? You know, this, that, thing, and the other. And he's questioning her. Then he makes this comment and told her, because he held on to this cord that was in the back of because they were in the back of the paddy wagon. Just him and her. And they start like banging her around and driving and swerving. It was a whole setup. Banged her up real bad. And told her we found 8 body parts of 8 niggas in the basement of that house. That's all right, because see, you won't make it. You won't make it in that house, so it's fine. Because she kept saying, didn't nobody, you know, she wouldn't answer. Nobody told me to buy the house, this, that, thing, and the other. So it's really weird conversation back and forth, but he looked real suspect. Okay? So that was that. So let's move on. She didn't get out of jail and everything like that. Day 9. Letty is in the basement. Now, she had taken pictures and everything. She's just down there developing some pictures. She's in there. And then you see, like, there's these slashes on the pictures. Like, there's these slashes on every picture. And she's like, the heck? So she takes all the pictures down and she pieces them all together. And, baby, they had this whole Freddy Krueger moment. Stuff got to move and the wind's blowing. And the pictures, when she put them down, it formed like this. It looked like a face. And then it came up out of there and it looked like Freddy Krueger. Like a Freddy Krueger real ugly thing going on. And the face came up out of there and said, get out of my house, right? And blew her back. And she fell back on the steps and she went running up to the thing. Went running upstairs or whatever. So all of that happened. Okay. So that went down. She went on about her business. Then Letty ends up talking to her sister. She has this conversation with her sister. She done got all scared now and things is starting to be real crazy and spinning out. So she ends up telling the sister, I'm sorry. And told her she lied to her. That she didn't really hit the lottery. That their mother had left an inheritance for her. And that's what she used that money. She had used most of the money to buy the house. And then the sister snaps out. She got upset because Letty didn't share it with the other brothers and sisters and told her, you know, you're selfish. You always just take. And it's this whole thing about the mama. There's something in there. And I promise you it has some colorism thing going on with it too. But Letty was the pick. The mama supposedly gave it all to her, and the sister was just mad. And she, you know, she felt as though Letty should have shared and all that. So this breaks that out. So the sister leaves. When all the stuff with the burning of the cross and all that stuff happened, the boarders had left. See, people got scared and they left. So I ends up where there was really nobody in the house but her and Tech. Okay? Her and Tech. Then that's that. So basically the house been cleared out. Ain't nobody there now but her and Tech. The sister then got mad, went on wherever she went. Montrose ends up having this whole little conversation with George's wife. He come over, check on her, whatever. And they have a conversation and she tells him, I feel like you keeping something from me. And she made a comment because she had this book that she bought, was supposed to be George's favorite book, and she was buying a new copy, and he was like, what's up? She's like, I spilled coffee on his copy. Again, destroying his property. I don't know what she was all angry about, but she told Montrose, you know, I feel like something ain't being told to me about my husband's death and all of that. But whatever. So Montrose was kind of just like still trying to play it off. There's so much more that you don't know. You know what I mean? And she had a quick conversation as well at the party with Letty and told Letty, you know, basically how Tick, she didn't really want Tick around. She felt bad about it. And Letty asked her, does Tick remind you of George or something? Is that it? You know, because they've never actually lived together too much, I don't think. But I think as an adult, he, you know, she was saying about different things that Tick does that George does. And she was just like trying to undo it. And just, she said, does he remind you of George? I said, all this mess is getting ready. I said, Lord, okay. So that was that. So let's go. We go to day 10. Day 10, Letty done been doing some stuff. She been running around pulling things together and doing some research and all of this. And she starts talking to Tech. And they get to talking. And there's a name comes up. It's this Hiram Epstein, who was a guy who, because she was saying about the Winthrop in the house, and the name Winthrop, but she's like, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. But I did find this name, which is this Hiram Epstein, who was a scientist. Remember the solar system situation, little statue thing. Then the cop, she saw pictures, old pictures and newspaper of the cop and Epstein. Then there was another person with the name Lancaster. That came up. Then she found some articles about 8 black folks that had gone missing. Okay. So all of this came into play. She ends up, that's at the time when she ends up she told him about her, and her first time was the night of the party and all that. So the connection is there with them and all of that. It is what it is. Boom. Okay. So they put all that together. Letty says, she's feeling some things, like she thought that life was one way, but life really isn't that way. It's another thing, and she's just kind of scared. And she needs to kind of deal with what's what and different things that she knows and things that she feels. And this goes back to some of the stuff that actually happened with that. And then she was talking about church and something about her mother. Her mother had this free spirit. She kept talking about this free spirit. The sister had said something about the mother and how the mother was weird and how the mother used to do stuff and just didn't care about nobody but herself and Letty sometimes. So now what I'm getting, Tick is drawn to Letty and Letty is drawn to Tick. Remember, Tick got a little something extra. And it seems as though Letty might have a little something extra because she went back into some things about her mother that she remembered and things that she knew about herself that she had never wanted to really touch upon. And so they go back, they're figuring things out. She says, okay, cool, no problem. She goes and she has this hunch about these 8 missing black folks and the body parts being trapped in the house and some of the things that has happened. And she's like, are there souls actually trapped in this house and my house is haunted? So then she says, okay, next thing we know, we see her and Tick, and she goes and she gets this voodoo priestess. Okay. And they went and she does this little ritual. She took a goat and split its throat and got the blood. And she put the crosses on their foreheads and the cross on the house. And I said, okay, here we go. So Letty's getting ready to, just kind of sample some of what maybe she remembers about her mother and different things. Just, trying it. So they were going to do this little seance, okay? So they go down in the basement and they get started. And basically the voodoo priestess puts them in the thing. And of course, Tick is kind of skeptical, but he's like, all right, we've seen what we've seen. Her and they both were like, I don't know if it'll work, but we saw what we saw. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, or the souls of these people here, is this what the haunting about? Is this what the voices is about? They need to be set free. We're going to give into the spirit realm of what it is, and we're going to move on. And get things together. Same time this is going in, 3 white boys come and break in the house while they're in the basement. And they're like coming in, basically, they done ran everybody else away. They're like, we're going to run them away too. Trying to do what they're going to do. I said, but see, this was their unlucky day. Baby, while this stuff is going on, the voodoo priestess definitely makes contact, okay? You see stuff flying around. They in the basement. They're in this circular space, and it's going, okay? It's going. And we start seeing spirits. And right away, you start to realize these are all black folks. They are all these random black people. Of course, Letty and Tick kind of knew. Letty knew more so who the people were because she had found each of their stories, and you could tell they were all messed up. You would see all the things that happened. she had found out in some of the story about the guy that was a scientist that they were part of an order, another cult, little stuff going on. And he used to, that's what they said, that they thought that these people, the cop, was the one leading these people. These missing people, they were snatching these people. These people weren't just randomly going missing. These black people were being snatched up by this cop, and they were being used like guinea pigs for different rituals and things, if you will. Okay? They were playing in the dark arts. So, anyway, what was going on, the house completely had activated. All of the people didn't show up down in the basement right away. A couple of them were still around in the house because they had business to do. They weren't allowing the white boys to do what they were trying to do because they were being disruptive. They were being set free. So a few of the people had done went on off into the house. Baby, when I tell you, the elevator got one of the boys, decapitated the shit out of him, tore him up. Then there was a whole thing with the steam, and it was like steam and a radiator and this heat that tore the other two up, just jacked them up. So them three got killed. That was it. And then they went and they joined them in the basement. Now, in the midst of it, the Winthrop guy, which isn't really the Winthrop guy, it's the other guy, the Epstein dude, the one whose spirit came up in the Freddy Krueger way, he came up. He ended up in, when everything started up, we didn't see all the people yet. We just started seeing them appearing, okay? And they got interrupted. They couldn't get set free because the Epstein guy came back. Because remember, he died. Well, we didn't know. He died as well. He disappeared, but he didn't disappear. He died during one of those rituals. Same way as old Mr. What's his name? Bray White or whatever his name is. Him. So whatever that stuff happened, he came and he was saying he ended up possessing the body of the voodoo woman. And she attacked Tick. She took and attacked Letty and banged Letty and threw Letty, knocked her out, or thought she knocked her out, threw her across the room, and then she attacked Tick. And she was choking Tick out. And then Letty came and bashed her, and she got knocked out. And then when she looked over, Tick the guy had jumped out of her, and the Tick, his eyes that went black, and he was getting ready to get Letty. And that's when Letty started calling on the people whose souls were trapped. She started calling on them by name. And she called out all 8 names, and all of them came together, baby. And when I tell you, they pulled him, they got into the circle. They all got in a circle. She held hands with them, and you started seeing them be set free. All of the things that had happened to them, you seen like all the really nasty, they had tore these people up. They did all kind of terrible things to these people. But you seen them come back to their regular, beautiful forms. And they were teachers and teenagers, and, they like all people who literally, it was just the fact that they were black is that nobody cared about the fact that they were all people that was about something. They were ball players and teachers and looked like a librarian, and they were people, they made the newspaper, people were looking for them. But anyway, they all got into the circle and they were chanting and they pulled the man out, and he was like, "Get out of my house, bitch. Get out of my fucking house, bitch." And all this, child. So they pulled him out of Tick. Tick fell down on the ground. They took the man and just destroyed him. They destroyed him and sent his ass to hell where he belonged, honey. And then they were set free. And that was pretty much it. So the seance was cool. They aren't so much locked into the house, but this is just where they live. Okay? So they kind of just live there. Their bodies are literally under the house. And we've seen that at the end. They're under when the house goes down, like when the elevator, everything, the house all restored. Everything was more bright and everything. So everything was restored. Everything is cool for them to live there. And there's an extra ounce of protection there. And when the elevator goes down, and it goes down, they were saying something about we seen somebody asking her something about 3 white guys that came up missing. She said, I don't know anything about it. Nothing about nobody missing. I hadn't heard nothing about it. And she's like, oh, okay, because she was refilling the boarding house. Okay, and then we saw the elevator go down, and then it went down 3 floors, and then it kept on going down, 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 and then it got down there, and you seen all the way down. There's much more than 3 floors in the house. It went all the way down, and you see the bodies of the 8 black people, and you see the 3 white guys up close where their bodies were the last ones thrown down there. So they're basically down there, and if their souls decide to try to come back, honey, those black people down there, they'll take care of them. So there's an extra ounce of protection down at the bottom of the house. So they kind of just live there at the boarding house now. So everything is cool for Letty to live in her house. And I was like, okay, I was cool with that. Okay, last thing is getting everything together. We end up seeing Tick. Tick goes down, and there's this lawyer's office that supposedly had actually gotten in touch with Letty about this inheritance. There was no inheritance. It was all set up. It was Miss Christina, honey. Miss Christine is back. Remember, she didn't perish in the house because remember, females weren't allowed to the whole thing. So she was able to get out the same way Letty and the uncle and all them that weren't able to go got out of the house. And we found out there were different things going on. And Tick went there to kill her. Told her, stay away from me and my family, which he's considering Letty his family and everybody. And he had pulled a gun on her. Baby, she was telling one of her little cryptic stories about this, that, thing, and the other, and how most people only have one spell that they can do. Everybody who's gifted and in the line of the family can do a spell. Most of them only have one spell they can do, and it's the one spell they have for their life. So you have to be real wise with what you pick. And how her father had basically picked a spell of you couldn't do an immortality spell, but a spell that would keep him from being harmed. And he had to remove the spell in order to tap into the Garden of Eden, which is the whole thing that he was trying to do with Tick. And that's how Tick was able to harm him, because generally nobody else could ever harm him. That's how he was able to withstand. Remember when they cut out a piece of his liver or whatever it was for that dinner? They were able to just do it because he would just regenerate. It was no problem. But he had to remove that spell to be able to do what he was trying to do with the Garden of Garden of Eden and all of that. And that's how he was able to be harmed. And she wasn't broke up about it, but she's steady telling. And the whole time she has already cast this spell on Tick, and he's still standing there with the gun, holding the gun on her. And she's talking to him, and she tells him this, that, and the other, and on and on and on. And she knows the power that he has, basically, and she has some power too. And I think that she probably has more than one spell she can do. But again, remember, she's a female, so she never gets a chance to really do her thing. But I think in this whole thing, she was babbling a lot. She was really babbling a lot. And again, it was going into all of this stuff. She got this real issue about the Bible and the way the Bible went down. So I don't know if her and her dad, I don't know. Did they want to do away with God and then they replaced themselves? Because he said he was Adam. He said he was Adam. But was he like a Judas type version of Adam? Was his plan to really like get rid of God out of the whole situation and it just be him in control? Because I kind of feel like that's what her dad's plans were. I don't know, but what I do know, Christine is a bad Birthright or Braithwaite or whatever her name is. She's a bad bitch. Tick is a bad bitch. And Letty got something going on. So it's going to be a whole battle between the three of them. She basically told him, you know, all of this that you're talking about is fine. I want you to go back to your life. And then she told him, you know, that guy was, you know, everything that they ran into was no coincidence. It was all, they were all part of the order as well. There are other sections of the order who have all tried to do these things. And she told him, you know, I want you to go walk away from here and go about your life until you can think straight. And she told him, you're smarter than this. You do realize and you know you can't just go around killing white women. And she left it. You know, she talks in code and she say good shit. And she got a real smart to her tongue, honey. She's got a bite to her. And she did. She was like, you know, because she thinks she's friends with Tick. She likes Tick. She likes Tick. But I believe her father thinks that he could literally replace God. And he thought he was Adam. And I think that in her crazy mind, she really thought she could replace Eve. Because she would be like part of her father, right? Wouldn't she be the red penny? But he just ain't mate with her. Or did he? I don't know. I think she thinks she's Eve, honey, and that she could run everything as opposed to her father. I think they got a whole thing going on, a little control situation. But she is a bad bitch. She got some stuff with her. But anyway, I don't know. But that's what she told him. Go away and you come back when you feel better. And that's it. So things ain't getting ready to stop. Things ain't getting ready to stop. She not going to stop. She's still trying to tap into power. And to get whatever this power that she wants, she needs Tick on her side to do it. And that's all that's to it. So this is where I am. This is what I've gathered. I think this is what's going to be the fun part about this, is trying to figure all this out. Because it's all over the place. It really is all over the place. But anyway. Yeah, that's it. That was episode 3. And it really, the way it's shaping up, it's reminded me a lot of American Horror Story. You know, the way the pieces, you know, everything ties to something else, but it's like a whole story that could have stood by itself. Reminded me of American Horror Story. But anyway, not nearly as good, because this is cool. But no, baby, this is no Ryan Murphy, honey. This is just all right. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all next week. I'm out.